Note to self, make sure that the storage is empty before doing another video after a good while. Because I really was on a roll and nearly done with the video I had for you today. But then it just stopped automatically. Darn it. I was on a roll too. But you know, gotta get back in place. Let's do this. Okay. So what I was saying earlier, well, actually you wouldn't know this because this is a brand new video, but in the video I had made literally seconds before redoing it, I was saying that between yesterday's manga chapter reaction and talking about my brother's birthday, I didn't really talk about my Easter. So I guess I could mention that a little bit, but first things first, happy Tuesday, everybody. I actually didn't do that in the last video. I feel so ashamed of that. Anyway, again, the video that I made prior to this actual video that I'm making. So, well, like I said I would do, after I made Sunday's video, I immediately went to my parents' place and I was with them the entire day. It was nice. For hors d'oeuvres and appetizers, we had like pretzels and a veggie platter with sort of a blue cheese dip dressing, if you will. Shrimp with cocktail sauce. And for dinner, it's actually funny. Well, for one thing, for dinner we had prime rib. And my mother's asking me, what should I make with it? So my mother, here's the thing. I am like I guess if you want to call it that way, I'm my family's resident food expert, even though I really wouldn't consider myself one in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, I'll still help out any way I can. So my mother had asked me, you know, what vegetables would go well with, you know, our prime rib dinner. So I just looked at my phone, best vegetables for prime rib, the pears all prime rib, whatever. And so I read over what the vegetables were, and eventually my mother found this one recipe for cheesy baked asparagus, which I will actually put a link in the description down below, because it actually did look really nice, and yeah, it really was as good as it looked. But we had that, we had the prime rib, and I made my garlic smashed potatoes, which is basically me being too lazy to ever peel potatoes, because I never do. And I just put like milk and butter and sour cream and chives and garlic and all sorts of other stuff together. It was pretty much made out of like necessity. Like whatever I found, I like put in it, and that was it. But yeah, it was a wonderful dinner. And for dessert, my mother made brownies. Delicious brownies. Well, not the brownies from that one Hershey's Cocoa can I told you about. The one where they don't really make the labeling for it anymore. This was like Duncan Hines, like box brownie mix or something, which, you know, still good. Plus my mother always doctored it up by putting chocolate chips in it. And then between that and a post a friend of mine had on Facebook yesterday, it got me thinking. I mean, we had to be home anyway because at this point we already know why. But for the most part, everyone who was celebrating Easter had mom food. Either they went to their parents' place to go have it, or, you know, maybe their parents delivered it to you because you couldn't go out, or something in that capacity. And to be perfectly honest, every single food I mentioned and every single food that probably everyone else had would be its own mom food video. In fact, full disclosure, it probably will be at some point, for the most part. But again, a friend of mine made this particular mom food for her family. And I figured, you know what? My mother made this too. And I was going to be talking about it eventually. especially when you consider the fact that it's a mom food that really everyone's had. I mean, it's something that, you know, we've all grown up eating. It's something that maybe your mother made for you. It's something that maybe your grandmother made you. It's something you've had that's seen all throughout forms of like media and fiction. And there are even some stores, whether like in New York City or somewhere, that specialize in making this. So needless to say, this is not only, one could argue that this is the mom food, if you really want to make an argument for it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if anyone else ever did. So at this point, you go, Nick, just get on with it. What is this mom food you're going to be talking about today? Well, if you wait one moment, the mom food I'm talking about is my mother's homemade chocolate chip cookies. Not very surprising when I say it now, is it? Well, some of you probably heard that. I'm like, oh yeah, I did have that growing up. Which, yeah, we probably all did. A bunch of other you are probably thinking, well, what's a special homemade chocolate chip cookies? And to that capacity, I agree. I mean, one could make another argument that chocolate chip cookies are the OG classic cookie. You know, they're the cookie that, you know, everyone's has their own recipe for it. You know, there's sort of varying ways, like you put this much of this ingredient in one to get this result, and bake at this temperature for this result. And there's so many chocolate chip cookie recipes out there that you could literally spend the rest of your life trying to find and try them all, and you'd never be able to do it. Full disclosure, that's why I wouldn't really try, because that's something you're just never going to be able to do. Seriously, like, you're probably going to find more recipes on homemade chocolate chip cookies online and videos on how to make chocolate chip cookies online than you're going to find, like, critic reviews of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. That's, like, how much stuff you're going to find on chocolate chip cookies. I'm not even kidding. In fact, like, I mean, again, I watched Food Network growing up, and of course I saw Good Eats. Alton Brown came up with like 3 different like chocolate chip cookie recipes in like the span of one episode. Seriously, he really did. But, you know, I'd rather not get into those semantics. I'd rather talk about the homemade chocolate chip cookies that, you know, my mom made, because you know, maybe she did something different. Maybe she would do something no one else does, or maybe she didn't do what everyone else does, you know. What did she do? Do I have any funny stories with them or anything? Well, some things. For one thing, apparently you're supposed to like freeze your dough or put it in the refrigerator, or chill it in the refrigerator before you use it. And recently my mother has done that. But here's the thing. You're supposed to form the cookies and put them on the cookie tray, then chill them. See, my mother just simply makes the cookie dough and boom, that's it. Put them in the refrigerator. Okay. Another thing she does is, and I'm sure there are some bakers that could potentially be watching this and are probably like scoffing at this idea. But, I mean, of course my mother well, sometimes my mom will just simply like preheat the oven, like put the cookies in then preheat the oven, which is something you're not supposed to do. But another thing she'll do is she'll take the cookies off the hot tray when they're done, and she'll just immediately put like a new batch on that same tray and do that. And sometimes you get really good cookies out of that. Other times you get ones that are definitely more well done than others. You can tell which one's which by looking underneath the bottom of the cookie. So, needless to say, I know a thing or two about that. I mean, again, but when they're done right, and she has done them right plenty of times, you know, they're just like, you know what they are? They're Gettysburg College servo chocolate chip cookies. You know I had to talk about, I went to Gettysburg College, I had to talk about servo cookies at some point, right? So, yeah, like the fresh, ooey, gooey sort of soft in the middle, crispy texture outside sort of cookie. So, yeah. And sometimes you get that with my mother's chocolate chip cookies, but other times you get exactly what I mentioned. But, again, at least I can say I grew up having homemade chocolate chip cookies, which, you know, some people unfortunately don't have that luxury. And, you know, that's rather sad for them. But, you know, I'm sure they've had homemade chocolate chip cookies. I mean, again, there's some restaurants in, like, New York City itself that specialize in making chocolate chip cookies. So, and again, you can find recipes online, videos online. So, it's definitely within the realm of possibility where if you didn't have a homemade chocolate chip cookie growing up, you could have it now. Just look it up online. But, you know, one thing my mother always did believe in, here we get into a couple stories, is when you make homemade chocolate chip cookies, and any mother, any housewife, any mother, anyone who made chocolate chip cookies at home, anyone will tell you this. When you make homemade chocolate chip cookies, there's just like the scent of them just conveys like warmth. It's a very inviting aroma, if you will. In fact, my mother would definitely make them before my brother and his wife moved from New York City back home to Corning. She'd make them every time they'd visit. But one particular story I have for them is before my brother went to college, because he went to Boston College, his number one college of choice was Yale. And he actually got pretty far in the process, in the application process, even down to the college interview with the representative. So that was really cool. So you're probably wondering, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, outside of my mother making the entirety of the house look and smell nice, using potpourri and all sorts of, you know, crazy miscellaneous stuff, of course she made the chocolate chip cookies then. And again, you know, it conveys that sort of, you know, scent, that aroma, that inviting feeling. They're like, this is a nice place. This young man comes from a very nice family. We should have him come to Yale. That sort of mentality. I mean, he didn't get into Yale, obviously, but, you know, the fact that my mother went that far making chocolate chip cookies for that reason, you know, that's got to say something. And you know what is funny? Yesterday was my brother's birthday. I'm talking about my brother even now. So, yeah, I guess everything sort of add up nicely. So in the end, yeah, I mean, if you're a chocolate chip cookie lover, I mean, why are you even bothering watching this? Like, it's possible you're making your own chocolate chip cookies as you're watching this video. You're probably listening to what I'm saying and seeing if the way my mom made them even follows the logic of what a traditional chocolate chip cookie recipe is. So, yeah. If you are a cookie lover, you know, they're definitely worth giving a try. I mean, if you grew up with your mother, or again, maybe your grandmother, or someone in your family making chocolate chip cookies, then this may bring about a sense of nostalgia for you, which, that ought to be nice. If by chance, you know, you're a cookie aficionado as a whole, not just chocolate chip cookies, but other kinds of cookies as well, you know, again, trying it for the sake of saying, you know, I tried them. That's pretty good. I don't really know what else I could really say about them is, yeah, they weren't like the world's greatest chocolate chip cookie ever. I mean, again, that's actually the one thing about mom food I never really have talked about yet is mom food is not meant to be the greatest you've ever had. Not even close. But it's meant to be the food that you grew up with. It was made with the love and the care that, you know, a parent would have for their child. And if nothing else, there's definitely some memories that can be had that are going to be very good, and no one can ever take that away from you. So, in those regards, I can definitely say Of course I love my mother's chocolate chip cookies. I liked all the cooking that my mom made growing up. The video I just made on Saturday about the broccoli and Swiss cheese soup at this point should be an indicator of that. But again, it's food I grew up with. I'll always like it. I'll always have it if I have an opportunity. And I have some wonderful memories from it. And no one's going to take that away from me. And no one can ever take that away from me at all. Like, favorite, share, and then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on social media platforms. Turn those notifications on YouTube. I enjoyed helping this video for all of you guys who watch and enjoy. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. And if you guys want to talk and chat with me and lend you always your back, take care and make good choices. See ya.